Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have got something very exciting to share with you. Each month on my Patreon, I challenge my patrons to a variety of creative challenges. And today I am joining a few of my friends on a YouTube hop to share how each of us took on my August sketch challenge. This is the sketch that each of us was working with, and I decided to convert it into a 6x8 layout and a pocket page spread. So let's get started. These two pages are going to sit next to each other in the album, so I am going to work on them at the same time. They're both telling the same story, which is how Pearl is so patient with putting up with Willow's wildness. Willow loves to play fight, and Pearl is incredibly patient with her. But the looks that she gives me while this is happening just make me want to cry with laughter. The kit that I'm using, so to speak, is a stash kit that I put together coincidentally, coordinating with my mood board challenge for August. And I've been using that for most of August now, so I'm going to use it for this layout as well. I am going to stick to some of the kind of warmer pinky peach tones in here and throw in a little bit of wood grain just for some texture. Like I said, they're from my stash, so all sorts of little bits and pieces. There's some Rosy Studios, there's Pink Paisley, there's all sorts in there. But to start with the sketch, I'm just going to work on the 6x8 page first and then the pocket page to coordinate. As far as the sketch goes, I'm going to kind of reverse it. So in the sketch there is a text heavy portion on the left hand side of the page, and I'm going to flip that round and have it on the right hand side. So I'm adding a few little border strips of paper, and you can kind of see my color scheme coming together here. I'm going to use some text, a floral, and just a neutral kind of gray to go in the middle to give the eye a little bit of a resting spot. Now I'm just really lightly adhering them for now, just so that I can see what I'm doing. I've already cut my base page, and this is going to go into my Life Crafted 6x8 album without a page protector. So it is a little bit larger than 6x8. The actual base page size is 7 and 8.5. So a little bit larger, gives me a little bit more space. But I love the look of having like a page out of a page protector next to those pocket pages. Now, as far as the kind of text goes on this page, I'm going to stamp out my title. I'm going to stamp my favorite non-word, ugh, in some Citrus Twist alphas, and I haven't prepped my cardstock in any way. I am going to do a tiny little bit of mixed media, but nothing that would need any kind of preparation. I did, however, get my letters on the block round the wrong way, so I've skipped you having to watch me redo all of that. I'm going to use some Distress Oxide, and I'm just going to stamp that straight down. I'm going to repeat the same word the entire way up and down the paper, so it really does just become this repetition. It's more of, I guess, an extra background layer rather than a title, but you well and truly get the meaning of what the page is. Now that I've stamped out my title or my extra layering strip, I'm going to peel these layers back off just because I don't want to put some splatters on them. I will put them back on in just a second. But I'm just going to smush that oxide pad onto my stamp block, add a ton of water, just to make a little bit of very minimal mixed media. I'm just going to add some splatters in here. What I'm attempting to do is get some kind of bigger drips and some smaller drips. I'm putting them all the way up that stamped portion, and then a little bit onto the bottom left hand corner as well, because that's where my photo and kind of my cluster of layers is going to be, and I just want a few of those splatters to poke out underneath there. Now, once that's all dry, I love the way that looks. It's the super simplest mixed media that I can really get to. Super quick. I, of course, have zero patience for letting things dry, so I did hit that with my hairdryer just to dry it off a little bit quicker. And then I reattached those strips. This time, though, I stitched them down so they are a little bit more secure, and then I roughed up the edges just with my fingernail because I had already attached them to the page. Now the kit that I worked with this month, I struggled a tiny bit because there were no embellishments as such in there. I didn't put any die cuts. It was mostly just paper and some kind of stamps. And so I struggled when it comes to embellishing things. So one of the techniques that I've been relying upon is die cutting things. I have a pretty enormous stash of metal dies, which I do not often pull out. This was the perfect excuse, and I'm going to do exactly that for this page too. I've got a bunch of very old heart dies there, and I die cut them out of some of that wood grain paper. I've also die cut them out of some pink glitter paper and the blue portions of this striped paper. So I was just really careful about where I placed the dies, so the hearts are only in that kind of really pretty warm toned blue. I can't get enough of it. I love it. And I'm going to use those for embellishments. The other kind of little embellishing layer that I'm going to use here is some of these labels. This was a freebie this month. I do a freebie digital printable every month, and I added a sheet of labels in there because I cannot get enough labels. And it's been really helpful having them, to be honest. They have been a large part of my embellishment journey this month. So I'm going to keep my layering behind this photo pretty simple. I'm just adding a few little bits and pieces. I feel like the page is already busy enough, but I do want to tie together some of the colors and patterns that I've used in those like border pieces and that I'm going to end up using in the pocket page. So I am sticking with those kind of patterns, the little EXO pattern and the floral pattern. Both of those are from Rosie Studios, and I'm just layering up a few pieces under there. Not too many. I think this is my last one, and then I can go ahead and adhere this piece into position. You can see a few of those little splatters still sticking out underneath it, which was just perfect. I didn't want to add too many layers and cover all of that mixed media up. I do it so rarely. I wanted to make sure you could still see it. And the last thing to do is just add a few touches of embellishment. So I'm going to add a few of those hearts on the bottom left-hand corner. I kind of like covering up edges of things, or like where papers meet. So I'm going to try and do that when I'm adding these hearts. Some of them I am going to add with foam tape to give a little bit of dimension. I don't need oodles of dimension in here, but just a little bit is nice, especially when they've got mostly kind of papers and not a whole lot of kind of dimensional embellishments. The rest though, I'm just going to adhere with a little bit of a liquid adhesive straight onto the background. And now that the 6x8 page is done, I'm going to use the sketch to do my pocket page. And basically when I use a sketch, it's just a starting place. So you don't need to be like totally faithful to what the sketch looks like. You can adapt it however you want. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take the sketch in the orientation that it was, so with the text on the left-hand side, so it's almost going to mirror what I've created on my 6x8 layout. I'm also going to use those same border strips, so I'm going to pop them on the left-hand side, and having the strips on kind of the center portion of this spread as a whole is just going to help tie all of that together. So I've got 2 3x4 cards that I've cut just from white cardstock. That's what I'm going to do my title, my journaling, and these border strips on. And then I trimmed out a 3x4 from pattern paper to go with my 3x4 photo, and those will be on the right hand side. So the pattern paper, I'm just going to end up with a little embellishment cluster, and my photo and my journaling and my title will be on the other pockets. So I am treating these as separate cards, but in this particular instance, I am running that border strip straight down from top to bottom. So I'm making sure to line that up and keep it all matching. This time, instead of using the double patterns, I used a single pattern. So I've used the floral paper, and I layered that with some pink washi tape. So I still get that little hit of pink in there, but it's not too bulky to fit into my pockets. Now this is the top card, and I'm going to stamp my title in here, so it's a little bit smaller than what it is on the original sketch, but it's still going to fill up this entire card. So I'm using an older stamp set. This was from the Studio Calico Summer of Sketches class in 2022. I just liked the kind of bolder font, but it's still small enough that I'm going to be able to stamp out 3 lines of text and get my words across the card. So I'm not going to make you watch all of my stamping here, but I am going to stamp I am over this, which is how I feel like Pearl acts. I stamped that in that same beautiful blue that I love, just to give it a little bit more visual prominence on the page. That definitely sticks out over this spread as being the title of this entire page. And now I'm just going to work on a few basic layers. I'm not creating a huge embellishment cluster down here, just a few mimicking the kind of layers in the sketch. I'm also going to add the stitching and the roughed edge so it ties those 2 pages together. And I'm going to add the circle because I haven't added the circle element, and that was in my original sketch. So I'm just going to use that as a base layer and add a couple of extra layers in here, and then pop in some of those die cut hearts as well. One of the things that I did put into the kit was some tiny word stickers. The pink works perfectly here, and I found a super cute sentiment. It just doesn't fit on a 3x4 card, so I'm going to split that as best as I can and kind of tuck it in underneath the heart. It's just a little extra. It's not going to be my journaling, but it just gives a little bit of focus to this particular kind of filler card as it is. It gives it a little bit more of a purpose. So the last thing that I have to do is do my journaling, and I am going to do that digitally and print it out on matte sticker paper. It's my absolute obsession as far as journaling goes now. I usually just use my old typewriter, but it definitely is getting into the last legs of its life, and so printing digitally my journaling allows me to fit a little bit more story in. It's not quite so finicky about what it can go on to, and I just love the look of it. You definitely do not see this sticker paper once it is down on the paper. I just make sure that I print it big enough to fit over what I want it to stick to, and then I just trim off the excess and call it done. I had so much fun working on this sketch, and I've already seen the gorgeous creations that my crafty friends have come up with. So make sure that you hop along and see for yourself. Their links are in the description box. And if you feel like checking out my Patreon, the link is down there as well. And I have put up an extra bonus video this week because I also used the sketch for a traveler's notebook page. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple of videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye.